Hello and welcome to this episode of Women in Mobility. A strong believer in personal humility and professional will, Hardevi Vazirani's professional journey has been remarkable and fulfilling. Following her graduation in Commerce, Diploma in Computer Science from NCC UK and Diploma in Business Management ICFAI, Hardevi joined Schaeffler as a systems analyst at the company's FAG manager plant located in Vadodara, Gujarat. Alongside, she pursued several programs including leading successful change in SEAT Singapore, mergers and acquisitions IIM Bangalore, and multiple regional and global leadership excellence programs for senior management. Successful stints in different functional roles in information technology, finance, and strategy in Schaeffler India and Schaeffler China as well for 28 years drove her to assume the current role as Head of Strategy and Regional Development at Schaeffler Asia Pacific, headquartered out of Singapore. Hardevi's hobbies include traveling, Bollywood music of all genres, binge watching on weekends. Welcome Hardevi, welcome to this episode of Women and Mobility by Mobility Outlook.
Thank you so much, Murli. My pleasure.
So first of all, I would like to know your initial days of the journey.
I was working in IT consultancy, which was a trend in those days that all the IT literate people would go to IT consultancy. And I would say it was a corporate career by accident, as over a cup of coffee. A friend of mine said that there is a company, a German company, who is recruiting programmers for their finance function. So that's how this happened, I would say.
So then later, what happened?
Let me put it this way, that when we talk about leadership, we back in 90s, an IT literate person choosing to work in a manufacturing company, it was a rare trait. And as a system analyst and programmer in a manufacturing company, I would consider I was already a leader in a way, because I was leading automation of companies' finance processes. I was inspiring functional teams to accept change from manual registers to desktops, encouraging them how to use basic database management software. And this is all about making difference irrespective of the title. So I was not an entitled leader back in 90s, early 90s. But the work that I was doing and the access to the CEO and CFO office that I had because of my IT literacy, I would say that the leadership journey started right from the beginning. And of course, the entitled leadership came much later. But I strongly believe that the quality of early life shapes our future. And there are intrinsic leadership qualities that as we grow, they are sharpened. And as you asked, that I went on to take different leadership courses or did change management program from INSEAD and several others from IIM and renowned institutes. This was all, I would say, is a part of growing and experiencing different facets of corporate life.
Yeah, very interesting to know something, automation in finance. I have heard only automation in manufacturing. How did that thought come to you?
You see, when in 90s, people used to, you take for example, a company bought set of machines, or they bought set of computers, or they bought set of furniture. They used to maintain manual fixed asset registers. If sales was happening, there was manual sales registers which were being maintained. And even for that matter, at year end, when the annual audit is taking place, or for listed company when the quarterly audit is taking place, the balance sheet, P&L, all this is done manually. I mean, finance has tons of processes. and all this was done manually in early 90s. So we kind of prioritize that what should be programmed in a way that facilitates finance team to work more efficiently and more effectively. In this period, I learned so much about finance, and I grew that passion for analytics, numbers. So I moved then from IT to finance in 1999.
Wow. So, what was your initial reaction when you got to know that you have to go to?
I had formal and informal mentoring by some of the inspirational leaders who encouraged me to step out of conditioned environment of security, what we term as comfort zone. And they encouraged me that it's a challenge, it's the Asia Pacific headquarter. India is going to be one of the sub-region, and it's a good chance to get into international finance learning. So I think every decision I have taken, and if I look back now, I feel it was the right decision. And that actually Shanghai transfer was a turning point in my leadership journey. Once you get out of your comfort zone, I went from IT to finance. And then within finance, I moved from finance India to finance Shanghai, which was Asia Pacific headquarter then. And so when you are changing yourself so much, then you actually encourage yourself to be versatile. And you accept the new challenges and the change management, which is so difficult usually. It becomes kind of part of your DNA, that any change, then you are accepting it willingly.
Okay. What kind of support you received from your superiors in Shanghai? I'm sure there will be a lot of expats there.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Shanghai was a new setup for Schaeffler Group's Asia Pacific headquarters. So there were many expats from all over Asia Pacific. So we had Korean colleagues, Chinese colleagues were of course there, Japanese colleagues were there, and many expats mainly from Germany. But I would say it was a good learning because you learn to manage with different cultures. You actually become diverse in a way, unknowingly. I mean, subconsciously you start learning about the cuisines and cultures of those colleagues, and also how to behave and how not to behave in specific cultures. So it was very enriching journey, I would say, and as I said, that was the turning point of my life. I say this because I stepped up multifold in my career when I was in Shanghai. I was put through leadership excellence programs, international management trainings. I got exposure to the Global Executive Management Board during those coaching sessions. So all in all, it was a very enriching and very fulfilling expat transfer, I would say.
Oh. So, were there women already in the team, or were you alone?
Unfortunately, not. In manufacturing company, first of all, you don't see women as much as you see in the service sector. So, even in those times, 2008, 2009, 2010, we did not have so many women expats in the responsible positions, even in China. Although China is considered as a very diverse country, the Chinese women at the workplace, the number is actually very high. But when we talk about Asia Pacific headquarter, we did not have as many women. I would say in finance function, there were only 2 women. I and one more German lady was there.
Yes, you have been in Singapore?
So I have been in Singapore now since August 2020. So slightly over 2 years, 2.5 years, I would say I'm here.
Mm-hmm. So the peak COVID time you moved to Singapore.
That's right. That's right.
But what is your view on gender diversity?
Interestingly, I am a member of Schaeffler's Asia Pacific Diversity Council. And the Diversity Council does not only address the gender part of it, but it also addresses culture, age, nationality, sexual orientation. But coming to your question specific to the gender diversity and empowering women leaders, my take is that implicit biases in our society and across the cultures and geographies are deeply rooted. You think of a word nurse and you will picture a woman. Okay. You think of the word plumber and you would picture a man. So these are the implicit biases. In my opinion, instead of attempting to eliminate those biases, it is better to put efforts in preventing those biases from influencing decisions that are affecting men and women's careers. Council member, she gave a very good example herself. She said that when it comes to complex projects, which are usually awarded to male colleagues, she said it is assumed that a woman with family will not be able to manage the complex project where extensive travel is there, or she will not be able to go extra mile since she has children. So this council member, who's my colleague, she said, ask and not assume. No. So ask the woman if she wants to lead this project. Don't just make assumptions. Okay. So I think gradually Schaeffler actually is taking some decisive steps in this regard, and gender diversity is being seen in a broader sense as economic necessity. Okay. And once we see that as an economic necessity, I think we can bring the much needed change. It requires open-mindedness and management skills, and I am proud to say that we are stepping up gradually on this topic as a whole, not just gender, but also other dimensions of diversity and inclusion. And globally also, the wheels are slowly but surely turning in the right direction as we see the examples from many other corporates.
Ask but not assume. Nice. Yeah, very interesting. How do you strike a balance between work and life?
On a lighter note, I would say I'm not married. So life is to some extent simpler as I don't have that kind of responsibility. But this is on the lighter note. I would not say that married women cannot do that. But it makes life comparatively simpler. And in my family, my siblings, their spouses, also my mother, she's retired now, and they have been at responsible positions in good corporates, and they understand the demands of workplaces. But at the same time, I would say that the corporates, the global companies like Schaeffler, the kind of policies, people policies and processes that they define. For instance, most of the meetings, I would say 90% of the meetings in Schaeffler, they take place from Tuesday to Friday. So okay, they avoid that the employees have to travel on weekends. We are encouraged to take minimum vacation days every year. Otherwise they lapse. So the policies, the people policies in Schaeffler are such that they encourage work-life balance more effectively. And we have now hybrid working post-COVID. The new normal is that employees are encouraged to work from home 2 days a week and come to office only 3 days a week. So I think the whole ecosystem in not only in Schaeffler, I think many other corporates also works towards work-life balance topic.
Okay. Just going back to what you said a little early on, the diversity committee, and then you're part of that. What steps are you looking at to introduce in the gender diversity area?
First and foremost, so there are different maturity levels when we talk about gender diversity. We conducted, as a first step, actually, we conducted a survey because Asia Pacific is a heterogeneous region, and how gender diversity should be managed is different for India than Singapore, or it is different for Indonesia than Thailand, or different for Korea than Japan. We have here 11 countries within Asia Pacific region. So first and foremost, we conducted survey, and from there we have identified the areas that we have to address, and they are distinctly different in different countries.
Okay.
Interestingly, one common thing remains across the board is generating awareness. In the management levels, we have global trainings of all the levels, including the board members, that how they have to be more understanding, more open-minded towards inclusion. It's easy to bring a diverse team. It's very easy. You just have to do the recruitment process. But to ensure their inclusion, as I said earlier, in the complex projects, in meetings, giving them the place on the table, listening to them, being empathetic to their requirements. More or less, I think globally Schaeffler is working in this direction, and the policies or the recruitment forms, etc., are being designed in a way that eliminate biases. There was a time we used to have in our form whether you want a male candidate or female candidate. This has been removed now.
Okay.
So it is purely based on the position description and the merit of the candidate that these things are happening. Additionally, although I am personally not in favor of quota and setting up the target of recruitment for women candidates, but there has to be some beginning. So Schaeffler has set some targets, and that there should be minimum X number of women in level 1, level 2 leadership position, and so on. This is just to make kind of a beginning. We are not talking still here 50%.
Okay.
But say, for example, Schaeffler India said that 10% of their new recruitments should be preferably women, for instance.
So, what is your advice for those women joining the manufacturing industry?
First of all, interestingly, most of the time, women put restrictions on themselves. So
okay.
I was like that. Maybe 20 years back, I was like that. I came across some inspirational mentors who changed me. But mostly I have seen that the women put restrictions on themselves. They have to understand that sky is the limit. They are capable of managing the situations. God has given them a wonderful trait of multitasking. They can be, of course, successful in whichever field they are. So I would say that women must not impose restrictions on themselves. They should believe in themselves. And the second thing, which is slightly, I would say, I would be a little critical on this, is we have seen more often the queen bee syndrome in women. That when there are women at workplace, there is one woman who's like a queen bee who tries to control the other women. and mostly they become so feminist, and um, they play the victim card, which is not good. I would not be talking here. Gender diversity does not mean that women all the time. It has to be a balanced approach. It is about giving them right opportunities. So women also have to understand and let other women grow instead of this queen bee syndrome, as we call it. They don't have to play the victim card all the time. They have to believe in themselves, and they have to be strong on their own accord, and not waiting for the policies and processes of the company to help them.
Very interesting, very interesting. Queen bee syndrome. Nice. The future belongs to a new mobility, electric, hydrogen. So I wanted to know what's your view on these, the new mobility.
My you would laugh. I mean, my vision of future mobility is like a science fiction movie. I heard so much about all this hyperloop when I was transferred from Baroda to Pune. Schaeffler's corporate office is now in Pune. And I was told there will be hyperloop between Mumbai and Pune, and that you will reach Pune in 20 minutes. So far, it is still like a science fiction. I picture a nice, fancy cubicle that I sit and I zoom to Pune in 20 minutes. Or we heard in recent past a lot about flying taxis, glideways. So my vision of future mobility is all those fancy science fiction things, which has not yet become the reality. But if we talk about in the real terms, in the last decade, we have witnessed major transformations. I think here on, it will only get more intelligent, more smart, and there will be mass usage of those things eventually. So this aspect of sustainability is going to drive the decade, and it will be more disruptive, I think. Cost and capital efficiency clubbed with environmental friendly mobility solutions is going to be the trend. I would have never thought that my fashionable niece would ever buy an e-vehicle. I thought she would want a trendy sports car, her first car, but she chose electric vehicle. So the today's youth is understanding their responsibility towards environment. So I think these trends are going to only further disrupt the mobility.
Yeah, great. It was lovely talking to you, Hardevi. Thank you so much for talking to Mobility Outlook and being part of Women in Mobility. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Murli, for having this lovely chat. Thank you.